Welcome to Big Time Paranormal. My name is Larry Gonzalez, and I'm very grateful that you're here. No, really, I am. Because each time that you guys watch this segment, that means I'm here next week. So hopefully you'll spread the word. Now, if you don't know who I am, I don't know how you can't. I run a Facebook page called Big Time Paranormal. And we do a lot of things that have to do with the paranormal, whether it's hauntings, ufology, cryptozoology. We also touch on other things as well. So if you like this segment, come on over and give us a like and follow us there. We're always updating with something new. So let's get those numbers going. I always can use numbers. Anyway, The news this week is going to start off with two stories that are very similar, but are going to come from a slightly different angle. The first one is a mother of two. She died for 42 minutes. Now, in this case, it wasn't something that she died and then she came back to life. When she actually did die, the doctors were able to use a device to actually keep blood flowing to her brain, which allowed the brain to basically stay alive until they were able to resuscitate her. And this is what happened after 42 minutes. Take a look at this video.
In the daily rush of urgent tasks and crammed schedules, life has a way of stopping us in our tracks and forcing us to think about what is really important. 41-year-old Vanessa Tenasio got such a reminder after she survived being clinically dead for 42 minutes. When she woke up, she wrote one word: kids. The mother of two, ages 9 and 11, Vanessa was about to get her kids to school when she had her first heart attack. Paramedics restarted Vanessa's heart with defibrillator shocks. At a local Melbourne hospital, Vanessa had another heart attack. Doctors used a chest compression machine they called the thumper. It worked automatically for over 30 minutes to keep blood flowing to Vanessa's brain and other vital organs so they could continue to function. While the thumper worked, doctors unblocked one of Vanessa's major arteries and her heart started beating again. Vanessa said, "For someone who's been dead for nearly an hour, I'm feeling tremendously well." While she never had prior heart problems, she has quit smoking, which has been shown to cause heart disease.
Okay, so now the next video is more typical of what we see once in a while, and that is someone dies and then somehow they come back to life. Now last year there was a guy that it was in Africa. They don't embalm, so hours after he died they were taking him to be buried and he woke up. You can imagine how startled everybody was, especially they're superstitious. So this story kind of works with that. This guy woke up after being 45 minutes declared dead by doctors.
A tragedy turned medical marvel in southwestern Ohio.
Everybody started telling me how it happened, and that's when I started to understand, a miracle happened.
Earlier this month, diesel mechanic Tony Yale's heart stopped beating. He was declared dead in the hospital. Nurses were preparing him to be seen by his family. His son Lawrence was with him.
I pointed at him and I said, "Dad, you're not going to die today." And I stood there for about a few more seconds, and I was about to walk back to, comfort the family.
Then something amazing. 45 minutes after it stopped, Tony had signs of a heartbeat. 5 days later, the 37-year-old was fully awake, leaving doctors fully confused. They don't know how it could have happened, and Yale's family doesn't really care. They're just glad Dad is back. Noel Waghorn, The Associated Press.
Yeah, these stories are really strange. You run across them once in a while. I remember it was a few years ago, there was a story about there was a morgue in the hospital, and the technician was working in the morgue when he heard a banging coming from, the morgue, the refrigerator. And when he actually opened up the door, he was startled because the guy came back to life, and he was actually declared dead. And they suspected something about the cold air had somehow resuscitated him. They weren't quite sure. But you hear stories like this all the time. And it's really strange, being that today's modern times we have all these medical miracles of technology, and we still find people that come back to life after, well, 42 minutes, 45 minutes, day or two, whatever it is. The next story is this guy dug up this odd-looking thing. Now, I saw the photograph of it, and he says it's an alien head. I don't know. I've seen shriveled up fruit that looks more alien than what he found, but he says it's an alien head. So let's take a look at that video.
A bizarre discovery is baffling residents of Croatia. Workers recently dug up what resembles an alien head out of a graveyard in northern Croatia during an excavation. The strange head is said to be soft and have a swirl or twisted appearance. Also found during the construction digging was another body part thought to be a heart. A worker who was present during the unearthing stated, "The really strange thing, though, was the smell. Most things that come out of the ground don't smell too good. But this smelled very sweet, like aftershave or perfume." According to nearby residents, the head is derived from a material which is similar to soft rubber or silicone. It was found approximately 3 feet under the ground surface. The pleasant-scented alien head was handed over to local authorities. The mayor is now responsible for the head, which is being kept at the town hall. The mayor seems to agree with the general consensus, claiming the head definitely bears a striking resemblance to an alien.
Yeah, if he says so, who am I to say that it's not an alien head? The next video, now this is odd because this is off Spain, and it's some sort of carcass that washed up on shore. Now, a lot of people said that it's actually remains of a shark, but what threw people off is it appears to have a couple of horns on it. So they were taking a look at it and they weren't sure. But here's the video on it, and you decide for yourself.
A woman has discovered a strange, mysterious dead carcass with horns on a beach in Spain. She spotted it floating in the shallow water as it gave off a horrible stench, nothing like she's ever smelled before. It has a bizarre, long, slender body, measuring at about 14 feet, with horns. This thing is really weird looking. Spanish marine biologist Paco Toledano examined the creature's remains and was puzzled, as he was quoted saying, "We've certainly never seen anything like this around here before." British marine biologists suggest that it could be the backbone of a shark. However, the large devil-like horns can't really be explained, as nothing from the sea has ever been discovered with horns. Tests are currently being conducted while people are speculating all kinds of things, like it could be a real Loch Ness monster, or water dinosaur, a sea dragon, or some more logical choices, like a new species of shark or an oarfish. One thing is for certain, the ocean is a big place, full of strange creatures and lots of mysteries that we may never fully understand.
Okay, so again, I was reading an article just before I started filming this segment that somebody claimed that it is a carcass of a shark, but it doesn't explain the horns that you see on one end of it. Again, very odd, but it does fall under the cryptozoology section of what we do here. Now the next one is UFO. Now I've been reading stuff like this for the past few weeks. Over in India, on the border of China, they have been picking up UFOs up in the air. Now India was accusing China of using spy planes to spy on India, and China flat out said, "No, it's not us. We're not spying on you. It's not our planes. It's not our stuff." So apparently it happened again just a few days ago, and This was reported by the Indian Army, and actually somebody caught this on video. So let's play the video. You decide for yourself.
Clarity, dude. Hey. 3.2 megapixels. What the fuck? Take a video. Oh my god! That is so cool!
That one thing has been staying there for so long.
Two of them. What the hell is that? Oh my god!
I think it's those parachutes.
Wow, that looks like an alien spacecraft, I guess. It's been hovering here for the last 20 minutes, sometimes going away, sometimes coming on.
So the reports have been hitting the headlines in India and elsewhere concerning claims of more than 100 individual sightings of strange objects in the skies over the line of actual control with China. So let's just take China at their word that they're not spying on India. That's not their stuff. Well, India wouldn't be saying it's China if it was their own stuff. So whose stuff is it? I guess time will tell. Maybe. Anyway, that's the news for this week. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at something I consider a special report. And a lot of you may know about NDEs, near-death experience. Now, near-death experience, if you're not familiar with it, is when something traumatic happens to an individual. They basically die, their heart stops and so on. They come out of their body, they go to a white light, they cross over and they see family, friends, and then it's not their time, so they come back and they're a completely different person. And I'm not talking about, they're just weird. They're just no longer afraid of death, and they see life much richer. So we're going to take a look at it from basically 3 different angles. The first one is a more scientific view of what a near-death experience could be. Let's take a look at that video.
There are probably few experiences you could have that would confuse your brain more than almost dying. Hey friends, Lacey Green here for D News. Near-death experiences have been described by people across the world who came or thought they were coming within an inch of their life. What's totally crazy is that no matter who you are, where you come from, everyone describes it very similarly. It starts with a warmth spreading throughout the body, absolute serenity and calm. Some might even call it nirvana. Then comes a bright light and a feeling of being detached from the body as if you were floating. The number of people who have near-death experiences is on the rise thanks to technologies that can save people at the last moment. Naturally, there is a burning question here. What does it all mean? This is a complicated and emotionally charged question. For some, the near-death experience is proof of the afterlife. For others, it's a fascinating neurological question. So let's take a look at this phenomenon through a scientific lens. One of the most highly regarded studies on NDEs comes from the University of Kentucky. They found that some near-death experiences may actually be something called REM intrusion. During REM intrusion, the mind awakes before the body, which can trigger hallucinations. It's sort of like dreaming while you're awake, kind kind of. I covered this phenomenon in my video about sleep paralysis, so if you're interested, you should definitely check that out because it's some freaky stuff. Because REM intrusion happens in the brainstem, it's possible for this to occur even when higher functioning parts of the brain have already gone dead. Building on this research, trauma to the brain can result in a sensory mix-up. As your brain struggles to stay alive, all of that chaos results in an information overload in the visual cortex. This is known to produce visions of a bright light or a dark tunnel. The brain also releases a flood of happy endorphins, which puts you in a profound state of peace and calm. And because your brain's responsible for orienting your body relative to everything around you, trauma and oxygen deprivation can cause a sort of out-of-body experience. This has been observed in lots of people who aren't having a near-death experience as well. Lastly, a new study has been published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences on NDEs. The study was done on rats and found that after cardiac arrest, there's this crazy spike in neural activity. The lead author says that, if anything, the brain is much more active during the dying process than even the waking state. So essentially, the neurons go into overdrive as death sets in, causing the brain to go haywire in a predictable way. Cue warmth, bright light, floating, etc. We perceive this experience with profound intensity as our brain takes a sort of last hurrah before death. So I can't decide if this is beautiful or terrifying or depressing or what. So you should let me know your thoughts about near-death experiences down below or on our Facebook page, and I'll see you next time here on D News.
Okay. So now we're going to approach it from a more personal testimonial. And this lady needs no introduction. She's a very famous Hollywood actress. And she spoke about her near-death experience. And I'm glad that someone of her stature was able to talk about it and feel comfortable enough to talk about it. Let's watch this video.
You've talked about twice having a near-death experience. Does it mean you don't fear it anymore?
I don't fear it. Because when I was on the other side, like in the tunnel, and was with Mike, it was so beautiful and warm, and the light was so welcoming. And I held on to him, and he said, "You have to go back. You have things to do, and I'll be here." And this was so long ago, when I came out of 7 minutes of not breathing and no heartbeat and pronounced dead. It's still something I don't like to talk about much because it was very painful. I wanted to stay with Mike. Adjusting to life again was like learning to walk all over. But then I started appreciating sounds, colors, music. And I thought, my God, I've taken all this for granted. And it's so incredibly beautiful. And it made me cry. And I thought, thank you, God.
Okay, so you can't get more famous than Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor is the real deal as far as I'm concerned, as far as, a celebrity movie star. I mean, she was as big as they got. And, I admire her movies and stuff like that. Her personal life was, let's face it, was a mess. But she was still a Hollywood legend. Now, the next video is someone who is actually a scientist who had a near-death experience. And he was not much of a religious man before. So let's take a look at this video.
That stunning new book by the prominent doctor who not only claims he's been to heaven, but says he can prove it. Eben Alexander almost died 4 years ago when an infection attacked his brain. Now he's revealing his experience in his book, Proof of Heaven. And Nightline anchor Terry Moran has his story.
Eben Alexander is a healthy 58-year-old Harvard-trained neurosurgeon, a man of science, an expert on the brain, and he's got something extraordinary to tell you. Did you go to heaven?
Yes.
4 years ago, Alexander nearly died from a massive brain infection that plunged him into a coma and shut down nearly his entire mind. He was barely alive in this world, but he says he journeyed elsewhere.
I was rescued by this beautiful spinning white light that had a melody, indescribably beautiful melody, that opened up into a bright valley. Very verdant valley, blossoming flowers.
And he says God was there as a vast presence of infinite love. He met a young woman, he says, his guide, as they soared on a butterfly wing, and she gave him a message from heaven.
You are loved. You are cherished. There's nothing you have to fear. There's nothing you can do wrong.
A lot of people are going to say, Doctor, it was a hallucination.
I know this was not a hallucination, not a dream, not what we call a confabulation. I know that it really occurred, and I know it occurred outside of my brain.
As a neurosurgeon and a skeptic about God before his coma, Alexander says there is no scientific explanation for what he experienced, given how sick his brain was, how near death. Other scientists dismiss his claims, but there's this. After he recovered, he was sent a picture of a long-dead sister he had never met or seen. It was her, the girl he believes he saw on the butterfly wing in heaven.
It was the most profound experience I've ever had in this life.
For Good Morning America, Terry Moran, ABC News, Lynchburg.
So there you have it. Near-death experience. 3 different perspectives. One from a scientific, one from a personal experience, and one from basically both. So that's the special report. Now I want to address something that Cammie said last week. Cammie said that she thought this is going to my head, and this show is not going to my head. I'm the same person I was 6 weeks ago. What do you need?
An autograph.
Oh, of course. And I have to admit, I am just the same old Larry. There's nothing different about me. So, those are for me. Thank you. Anyway, I want everyone to remember, today is your day. Go out and make it happen. I told you, if you're going to bring me flowers, bring roses.